Hello, everybody. This is Berklisle Sports Talk here. So right now it's time to do our final division preview, and it is the National League West, or pardon me, the American League West. So we are previewing the American League West right now, and the last team we will talk about, as we have done 6 divisions so far, and this is our 6th division, and the team that I picked to win the American League West is the Astros. In addition, I think really the A's, and then the Angels, maybe the Rangers, and then the Mariners. I think are still rebuilding. I think they're at least a year away, maybe 2 years away from really being a team to talk about. Of course, looking at the roster, I do like their farm system that has improved dramatically. I think they're in better shape than they were, say, even a year ago or even 2 years ago. Okay, so the Astros. So this is a team that has gotten a lot of attention. They lost in Game 7 of the World Series to the Nationals in a game that they should have won. I mean, I went through done by about a 25-minute condensed game version of that game yesterday. I mean, the Astros should have won that game. They didn't. They lost Game 7 of the World Series. They almost won two World Series in 3 years. They've won 100 games in each of the last 3 years, including last year winning 107 games. Yet at the same time, 2 weeks after they lost that World Series, major sign stealing scandal. Gone is Jeff Luhnow, who was hired as general manager in the middle of when they lost 100 games every year. Built them up, did a great job in that department. And then you lost A.J. Hinch, who was the manager since 2015, 4 playoff appearances in 5 years. So gone is A.J. Hinch as well. And now, this is a completely different look right now. Now Dusty Baker is your manager on a 1-year contract. And by the way, gone is Garrett Cole as well. So you've lost Garrett Cole in free agency as well, who won 20 games, struck out over 300 batters in each of the last 2 years. Really pitched Cy Young level baseball. You do return Cy Young Award winner Justin Verlander, but with this Astros team dealing with a sign stealing scandal now, they should be favorites to win this division. I wouldn't see why not, since traditionally the A's, and we'll get more to them in just a minute. We're off the Astros, as the A's, they have kind of gotten off the slow starts, and they really pick things up usually in June and July. So this is a good reason why the Astros will probably win the division. And again, on paper, I think they have the best rotation still of any team in the division. They may have the best bullpen. Maybe the A's one's a little bit better of any team in the division. Certainly, they have the best lineup of any team in the division. I mean, maybe the Angels one could be quite good. The A's one is overall they have a good lineup. But for the most part, there's no better lineup than the Astros. I mean, no team in baseball has done what the Astros have done hitting last year. They are the team to beat in the division. So here's their team. So Justin Verlander, coming off a Cy Young season, struck out 300 batters last year, won 21 games. Will start on opening day. Actually would have missed the start of the season if it had started on time. So really, Verlander gets a shortened season. We'll only get to see about a third out of Verlander of what we normally get to see, but that is the same for everybody around baseball. That's just the way things went this year. So right now, Verlander will be the opening day starter again. Is still maybe the best pitcher in baseball. Certainly one of the best. Definitely could say is the best pitcher in the American League. That is a very close debate with Garrett Cole. And then the rest of the rotation, Zach Greinke. You have a full season with Zach Greinke. And then here's the rest of the rotation, which could be a big concern. Lance McCullers, coming off Tommy John surgery. How is McCullers going to be in his initial turn? Has not pitched since the 2018 ALCS. And then you have Jose Urquidy, who was a fourth starter, really kind of took over that 4 spot kind of down the stretch. Pitched in the playoffs last year. Had a good start against the Nationals in the World Series. Kind of became a starter for them, will be a starter now. And then the 5 spot is still yet to be decided. One option that could be interesting to see starting finally, who I've seen him pitch multiple innings, could be Josh James. Can throw very hard. Definitely has starter potential. Has the ability to start games, but we've seen him really in 2 at the most 3 inning kind of sprints. So this is kind of older rotation. Verlander just turned 37. Greinke is 35, going on 36. And then McCullers coming off Tommy John surgery. Shows Urquidy limited experience. This is someone with limited starting pitching experience. So the rotation, which again at times has been a great strength of the team. I mean, you go back to what it would look like in 2017 when they won the World Series. In 2018, it is very different. Garrett Cole is no longer there. Dallas Keuchel could eat a lot of innings. Was always a reliable starting pitcher. Maybe someone they could have considered bringing back. Gone is Keuchel, has been gone now for a year, and gone is Charlie Morton, someone who they really could have used, especially now left for Tampa. So again, so you want to look at who they could have right now. Garrett Cole, ace on the Yankees. Keuchel, reliable innings eater on the White Sox, another team that I picked yesterday to win the Central. And Charlie Morton, another on a potential another playoff team in the Rays in the AL East. Was definitely their ace last year. So those are three starting pitchers you could really use right now. Imagine if you had. Of course, obviously there wouldn't be the need for Zach Greinke at that point either. And it never really looked like Cole was coming back. I think they should have tried to invest money in trying to bring Garrett Cole back. But that did not work out. So this is your current rotation. McCullers can be good, has been good in his career. It's just a question mark. Urquidy can be good too. But if you want to look at the rotation against, say, other October teams, like if you put this team up against the Nationals again, I'd give the advantage to the Nationals. If you want to go up against the Yankees, maybe I'd say the Yankees. Or if you wanted to go the Rays, I might even probably would say the Rays as well. So this rotation is good, could be very good, and I think it will be good. But what I'm saying is it'll never. You can never have a good rotation of what the Astros have a 1-2 punch of Verlander and Cole, and that's the thing. You're losing Garrett Cole, and I think that is a big concern. With losing Garrett Cole, the team does have a strong bullpen. Of course, you have lost Will Harris, who was great in the regular season, 1.57 ERA, and then maybe the reason why they didn't bring him back kind of crashed. Kind of in the postseason, ended up giving up home runs, including ultimately the home run to Rendon. We can talk about that game all day, but that is for another time. So I think this team does have a good bullpen for sure. The lineup, it's just spectacular, and I've been marveling at that lineup for a long time now. You have Yuli Gurriel, 31 home runs, 100 plus RBIs last year. Jose Altuve hit 31 home runs last year, despite spending some time on the DL. Bregman, second MVP voting, keeps getting better and better every season. 118 RBIs, 341 home runs. Bregman is going to win MVP at some point, just keeps getting closer. Michael Brantley hit over 300, 22 home runs, 91 RBIs. Springer, 39 RBIs. For Springer's is actually a contract year, and right now will not get a full opportunity to showcase his year. So if Springer, like for example, last year, through about 60 games, looked like was going to win the AL MVP and then battled some injuries. And now if Springer can do that again, get off to a great start like he did last year, then he very well could. And what if Springer wins the MVP? I mean, there's a lot of MVP candidates in this lineup. Altuve could win another MVP. You have Bregman. You have Alvarez. What if he breaks out? Alvarez last year, 27 home runs, 313, 78 RBIs in 87 games, is trying to build on that. So if you translate to that approximately full season, that's about 50 home runs, 150 RBIs, somewhere right around that neighborhood. So the lineup is going to be great. They're going to score a lot of runs. I think pitching in most games, they will have the advantage there. So they're going to be good again. Like the Dodgers, they could win somewhere around 40 games. And probably are going to win the West. And really in recent years, going back to 2017, they have never really had that much. I guess their biggest threat has been the A's, for that matter, who, again, have won 97 games. Each of the last two seasons really were a threat for them down the stretch. In 2018, they are a threat to them in the West. And the Mariners, I guess, were kind of a threat in 2018. That has gone away. Rangers, I really don't think are a threat now. The Rangers might possibly at times have a better rotation. if you have certain members. Just at times, I really don't think they do. The Astros do clearly. In fact, they do. I don't even know what I'm talking about. And then the trying to think about the Angels. I don't think the Angels are a threat. They've never really been a threat to the Astros. I mean, the first time they made it to the playoffs was 2018. They ended up being a wild card that year. I guess their biggest threats were kind of the Rangers. That's kind of gone away. So the Astros own the division. I think they will for the next 2 years, as long as they have Justin Verlander, as long as they have the type of offensive talent that they do, they will potentially be a threat. And by the way, all the lineup I'm mentioning right now, Carlos Correa, who has batted seventh a lot, he's had a hard time staying healthy. Once again, we'll get a limited sample size once again, but Correa in those short seasons has hit 20 home runs. And even half a season's battle injuries. If Correa can stay healthy the full year, be on the field, that could be another lineup piece to produce. So you could have potentially 1 through 7 just a dangerous threat. That's going to be the thing with the Astros this year. Is they're going to be very hard to beat, and the question is, what will it be like in October? And that's the question about Garrett Cole. The biggest loss is Garrett Cole. Now it'll be interesting to see the impact. Since maybe the regular season they can get through, but I think it will be a big impact in the playoffs. And the playoffs, you can just throw out. I mean, think about the series against the Rays. Verlander was really good in Game 1. Cole was dominant in Game 2. 2-0 lead, but then Greinke had a bad start, and then you try to bring back Verlander on short rest, knowing that in Game 5 you get Cole, trying to put the series away. And trying to bring back somebody on short rest, it can be harder. The Rays didn't have his best stuff that day, and then you had a Game 5. It was do or die, and you had Garrett Cole. And Cole was dominant once again since he was on kind of regular rest, kind of on 4 days rest, the standard. Same thing against the Yankees, and they couldn't quite finish up against the Nationals as you had Justin Verlander in Game 6. They couldn't hold the lead. So again, that could be the biggest question is, what if in the playoff series you're facing a Game 4? And then what if that happens again? Who do you go with in Game 5? So now all of a sudden... Hey everybody, this is Berkeley Sports Talk. Just had a brief interruption and the video got cut off, so I'll do some editing and then I'll get back in place. Okay, where I was talking about the Astros. And this is kind of the end of the Astros, so talking about Garrett Cole. And right now, kind of losing Garrett Cole, not having him available in the playoffs, and Garrett Cole being on the Yankees. What if you have to face, say, the Yankees in the NLCS or ALCS, and now you're facing up against Garrett Cole? So I think this will be a big impact for him. I think that could potentially, maybe the Yankees are now favorites to win the pennant. And I'm sure plenty of people, and I'll start looking at the preseason predictions, will pick the Astros to win the American League. I've not fully decided on that yet, but and they are, well, yes, they don't no longer have Cole. They are still a great team. They still will be really good. They are World Series contenders. I would not be surprised at all if they won the World Series again this year, and that is definitely something they're chasing. If there's any team that's looking for redemption right now based on last year and the sign stealing scandal, that was a big deal kind of about a month or so before really everything shut down. That was a big deal. Then okay, so now the A's. So the A's, they're an interesting team to talk about. They won 97 games in each of the last 2 seasons. They finished second in the division, which ultimately, behind of course the Houston Astros, led them to the wild card game where they lost to a Yankees team, and then last year they lost to the Rays. Which one thing about what this team kind of lacks is starting pitching, and I think it could potentially be better this year, and maybe long term over the next potentially with Jesus Luzardo and AJ Puck, 2 pitching prospects that they have come up with. Puck obviously could have gotten to show off really his potential in 2018, but then had Tommy John surgery and was kind of coming back from that last year, so really will not get a chance to have a full season until almost 5 years after he was drafted. Same thing for Luzardo, who was in a trade with the Washington Nationals, was drafted in 2016. Thought would be in the majors a lot, and then battled some injuries as well. So they will finally they could finally be getting a full look at them in the majors this year, Luzardo and Puck. So Mike Fiers, obviously a reliable starter, can eat innings. But really, what would it be like if he was pitching in a playoff game? Then Sean Manaea was hurt last year, so you get Sean Manaea healthy. That's what the A's teams need. Frankie Montes actually pitched fairly well last year, had a good season, but then I think had a PED suspension, so ended up costing him the rest of the season there. And then Lazaro and Puck, so this could be a good rotation. But then again, if you're in the playoffs, how does it match up there? And again, they don't have much starting experience, so could they potentially piggyback each other? That could be an interesting question to ask. Is this year there'll be a lot of starting pitchers who aren't quite ready. There'll be a lot of piggybacking around the league. I want to see kind of how it works. And if there's the two that could do it, maybe it is them. Maybe they do have a 4-man rotation and it is like October, or maybe even a 6-man rotation. I don't know, but this is what the rotation looks like right now. And based on a team that's won 97 games, this is not a starting rotation with the team that would win 97 games. It's really their bullpen. In 2018, the bullpen was dominant. Basically, they only wanted their starters to go 5 innings, and then they handed off the bullpen. And in the wild card games, the Yankees, they basically used their bullpen basically the entire game, tried to win on opener, did not work. And another candidate looking to bounce back was Lou Trevino, who was a big part of 2018 and why they're so successful. And then you have your lineup where you have Matt Chapman at 36 home runs, drove in 91 runs, one of the best defensive third basemen in the game. Then you have Matt Olson, same thing, 36, 91. Won a Gold Glove at first base. They're both young, in their mid 20s, entering their late 20s. Have had 2 full years of success. Then you have Marcus Semien. He's in a contract year. It'll be interesting to see how much money he can get. Now, of course, the bad news is it's a shortened season, like I talked about with George Springer. If turns out can't pick up on that pace, maybe ends up re-signing back to the A's, or could potentially leave, given that the A's, and they've done this throughout their history. And this could be something to think about with Olson and Chapman a few years down the road, is the success they've built right now, I think will be hard to replicate long term. They usually, and what the A's do is they could have success for 3 or 4 years, and then when those players that they have can no longer stay with the team, then they end up either doing trades, restocking their farm system, usually rebuild for 2 or 3 years, and they're kind of back to success. They've had a lot of success the last 20 years, yet they've struggled to put together deep playoff runs, especially the last 2 years, winning combined 194 games, failing to win a playoff game. So you have Semien, did hit 283, 33 home runs, 92 RBIs, was a Gold Glove finalist, third in AL MVP voting. So again, really good defense in the infield, and of course over 100 home runs combined, not to mention over 270 RBIs. Then you have Ramon Laureano in center field, who almost 324 runs, 67 RBIs as a center fielder. He's really good defensively, at least has a rocket arm. But he missed 40 games last year. And then Chris Davis, another interesting name in their lineup, did hit 48 home runs in 2018. Did hit 40 plus the previous 2 seasons. Was looking to bounce back. Was kind of down last year. Got a new contract. Was really declining. What if Chris Davis comes back and hits 20 home runs this year, comes close to last year's total, was in the low 20s. So they do have a good lineup. Bullpen's their strength. Rotation's one of their weaknesses. And the question is, and also with the A's, is they've gotten off to slow starts in years past. Remember last year they were 18 and 22. If they do that again this year, that would almost certainly cost them a spot in the playoffs. So with the A's, they need to play like they're a 97-win team all year long. They can't get off to a slow start and kind of get hot like they usually do around June or July the last couple of years. They need to play hot. They need to be hot from the beginning. So now it brings me, I think the Angels will be better than the Rangers, but I decided to put the Rangers third. I regretted that pretty quickly. But I wrote about them first, so I'll talk about the Rangers. So the Rangers add Corey Kluber. Now, the thing with Corey Kluber is I do not think we're going to get the Cy Young candidate. Kluber has won 2 Cy Youngs. I don't think Kluber is going to be a Cy Young candidate this year. I think he can be a good, reliable starter. But Kluber last year got hurt right around May 1st, ended up missing most of the year, was clearly not the same pitcher. If you can get Kluber back in a short stretch, maybe he gives him 10 starts and pitches 60 innings as a good, reliable starter for them this year. And then you have Lance Lynn and Mike Minor, who Lynn and Minor each pitched 208 innings last year. Minor struck out 200, Lance Lynn struck out 246, and Lance Lynn really just came out of nowhere. I mean, that was such a big surprise with Lance Lynn, since sure was a reliable starting pitcher for years with the Cardinals, and then took a while to figure out. Couldn't quite figure it out with the Twins. Ended up on the Yankees some, and then last year became one of the better starting pitchers in the American League. Completely just had a very surprise year. So that's the question with Lynn and Minor: can they do what they did last year in a full season? And I really don't know if they can. And an interesting thing with Mike Minor is you go from was a starter in Atlanta, battled some injuries, missed a couple seasons, and then kind of came back as a reliever of Kansas City, and then you go kind of back to that workhorse, which is kind of quite a story Mike Minor was. But with Minor, Lynn, and Kluber, sure, that's a good 1-2-3 combination, but the question is, does it work? What if Kluber kind of is ineffective again? What if Minor and Lynn take big steps back? Whereas you then obviously have Kyle Gibson, who again has been a good starter at times in Minnesota, reliable kind of innings eater, never an ace type pitcher, never really seemed like someone you want to start a playoff game. Sometimes that ERA is over 5, sometimes a little bit below 4. So just someone the decent starting pitcher, and then Jordan Lyles, who has been in the bullpen and out of the rotate between starting and relieving throughout his career, has been very ineffective at times, and just had 11 starts with the Brewers last year in about 60 innings, 2.46 ERA. So that would be their 5th starter. So if Lyles can pick up, which I don't think Lyles will pick up where he left off, has been in the league now for almost 10 years. And then you have, if those are your starting 5, you can have 3 really good starters and 2 reliable starters. Or the rotation could really struggle in the bullpen. Forget about the bullpen. I did not like the bullpen last year. One of the worst bullpens in baseball last year. Really wasn't any strong points there. And all the starting pitchers are above 30. I mean, Kluber's getting ready to enter his mid-30s. Same thing with Lynn and Minor. They're in their early 30s. Gibson is in his early 30s. And then Jordan Lyles is about to be 30. So this rotation is not a long-term rotation. Corey Kluber could leave as a free agent. In addition to Lynn and Minor, I think they're both on fairly short-term contracts. Really, I don't think this rotation will last more than 2 years. And the lineup struck out a lot. Really didn't have that much power. Despite their low average, Joey Gallo was hurt and is recovering from COVID-19, so we don't know what he's going to be like. And I just looked at their lineup and read, and it just wasn't a very good lineup. And by the way, gone is Nomar Mazara, who has been one of their more reliable hitters over the last 4 years and was still quite young. And just looking at the lineup, I don't like the lineup. And the bullpen was terrible last year, obviously. So the team outside of Minor and Lynn, they basically carried the team to basically playoff contention for the first half of the year, but they just could not stay in playoff contention. They fell apart down the stretch. That is why they brought in Corey Kluber. That is why they added to the back end of the rotation. The rotation looks very different, but it's hard to say how good can that rotation really be. And can the Rangers go for a wild card spot? That's an interesting question. Can they maybe have been again? It's a short season. This time a year ago, through 60 games, they actually would have gotten a wild card spot. Maybe they still can. Just right now on paper, I don't know about their lineup and really their rotation. There's a lot of uncertainty. Danny Santana, interesting player at 283 last year at 28 home runs, stole 21 bases out of nowhere, but had not been productive for 5 years. Really bounced around. Had a good rookie year for the Twins in 2014, but then just didn't do anything. Kind of the other 4 years, so kind of came out of nowhere. Do not think that will be able to repeat that type of success, but I could be wrong. But the Rangers, I don't think are a playoff team. They might have a shot, but how would they go up? But how does this team go up against, say, teams like the Astros or the Yankees or Cleveland, even the Twins or the White Sox. I don't think they're in that category. If you had to say where they would rank, I would say maybe they're the seventh or maybe the eighth best team in the league, which might have been enough, in expanded playoffs. If the playoffs was 7 or 8 teams, which I think it will be in the next few years, then maybe that would be good enough. But in a short season with 5 teams making the playoffs per league, I just don't think that's enough. So now the Angels, that's the last team I'm going to get to. The Angels, I think, really could finish in second place. They look so much better than I thought they would be. The rotation looks much better. You have Andrew Heaney coming back, appears to be their number one starter. And then you have Julio Teheran coming in for Atlanta. Now the thing about Teheran has had COVID-19, so still may not be fully effective this year. Teheran in Atlanta, I've seen him pitch a lot over the years. It kind of, at times you thought could be an ace with the Braves, was an all-star caliber pitcher early on, then kind of settled into a reliable innings eater. Has been on good Braves teams in his career, especially the last 2 years. Was one of their best starting pitchers when they kind of had struggled kind of towards the end of Turner Field in first year in SunTrust Park. Dylan Bundy at times has been a reliable starter, again, sort of like Teheran, very high level prospect, never really lived up to the expectations. At times struggled in Baltimore, at times was one of their better pitchers on terrible Orioles teams the last 2 years. Griffin Canning's quite young, I think he's about 23, 24. He could settle in as a good long-term potential. And then Shohei Ohtani. And Ohtani is going to be fun to talk about. Let's go ahead and talk about Ohtani right now, kind of featuring Ohtani. Ohtani will pitch on Sundays. That's what I've read about. So that means he's your Sunday starter and will pitch once a week. So if you have Ohtani on Sundays, maybe that means maybe it's sort of like a weekly rotation. Maybe Heaney, Teheran, Bundy, and Griffin. That would be enough to do Monday, Thursday. So then maybe you do openers in between. Maybe what you do is potential piggybacking with the rest of your rotation. I don't know. So that means someone like the Angels will definitely use a 6-man rotation, maybe in 7-man rotation, since Ohtani is kind of the Sunday starter, sort of like college baseball, or maybe even sort of like the maybe similar to what they do in Japan or Korea, where they have off days. So the rotation could be good, could be a good reliable rotation. The bullpen needs to improve. Their team ERA was 5.09. Last year, they really need a better bullpen, and that needs to improve. This team wants to be in the playoffs this year. I mean, at times they've been in contention for the playoffs. At times, it's kind of interesting. We talked about in February. I can't emphasize this enough this year. It's been kind of a big topic in baseball at times over the last kind of 6 months or so. They've talked about expanding the playoffs. If they had expanded the playoffs earlier, their Angels would have made it to the playoffs, I think, something like 5 times in the last 8 years, and who knows what we would have seen out of Mike Trout in October every year. That's what we want to see. So if Ohtani pitching, he's not pitched in 2 years. Did not pitch last year, had Tommy John surgery. He did hit last year. He did hit. But Ohtani at times looked like could be the ace of the future, and if Ohtani can get healthy this year, have a good year pitching, maybe 2021 goes back to that full workload for the first time since 2018, and maybe this time really does have a full workload, since I kind of had a limited workload in 2018. In his career in two seasons as a hitter, he's at 40 career home runs, driven 125 runs, and has hit around 280 to 285 as a hitter. Was a Rookie of the Year candidate in 2018. This year we'll be hitting once again, so we'll be DHing on many days. So that means Ohtani maybe could DH maybe on Tuesday through Friday. Maybe doesn't DH the day before start. Maybe DHs the day after, or maybe doesn't. So if Ohtani, and what if he could be a pitcher that could hit? So if Ohtani hits 4 times a week, and maybe we'll be up to 5 times a week. I don't know. So hits 4 or 5 times a week, and gets about 20 at bats. So this year in total could get somewhere around 200 at bats, maybe even less than that. and then can start and gets maybe 10 starts, maybe pitches 50 innings, somewhere around 50 innings, maybe less than that, Ohtani could be a big factor for this team on both sides of the ball. And I'm just excited to see Ohtani. And by the way, on Sundays, I will look forward to watching Ohtani pitch, and then Justin Verlander, or I'm sorry, Justin Upton, said Verlander a lot earlier, is trying to come back and be healthy after hitting 30 home runs each season from 2016 through 18. That was the rest of their lineup. Tommy La Stella hit 16 home runs in half a season before season-ending injury. Actually made it to the All-Star game last year. And then you have David Fletcher and Andrelton Simmons, low strikeout contact hitters, who can hit around 200, 300. So this team does not strike out very much. They have a low strikeout rate. By the way, you also have Mike Trout, 45 home runs last year, third MVP, is the best player in baseball. You have that. So this Angels team, they could be a wild card team. They really could contend for a wild card. I think next year they'll begin to take another big step forward. And really they could be set up to win potentially in 2021 or even 2022 and beyond. They could start to be in the playoffs more often. And that'll help. The Angels are this team to watch this year. They were the team to watch last year and the year before. They're always a team to watch with Mike Trout. And the question is, do they make it to the playoffs or not? That'll be an interesting cut. I probably won't have them in the playoffs this year, but that could change in a 60-game season. Remember, 2 years ago they left with 13-3 start. If they do that again this year, they could be well on their way to a playoff spot and maybe not even look back and potentially get off to an early lead in the West. I ultimately think we'll go to the Astros, but the Angels are a playoff team, or could very well be a playoff team. They look very talented. They look like a lot of fun to watch. Outside of the Astros, they're probably that second team to watch in the division. You also have the A's and potentially the Rangers as well. There could be 4 teams that I think have a reasonable shot to make it to the playoffs. If I had to rank them, it's Astros number 1, A's 2, just their track record over the last 3 years. And then the Angels could finish in second place, could start to take a step forward, have momentum to build on 2004 and 2021. And then you have the Rangers. I don't know what they are. They could be, I think they could potentially win 25 games or they could win 35. I don't know with the Rangers. So we'll see there. Those are all the divisions. I just want to go back rapid fire the teams I'm picking to win the division. NL East will go East, NL and AL East, Nationals, Yankees, AL and NL Central, the White Sox and Cardinals, NL West, last video, the Dodgers, AL West, the Astros. Those are my 6 playoff teams. And then later on, I'll do another video where I'll pick out my final 2 teams. I'll do a quick video where I pick the playoffs, who's in the playoffs, and then what will happen in the playoffs potentially, and who will win the World Series. Those will be my next picks. And maybe I'll have to think about adding MVP and Cy Young. I don't know. I feel like it's just too hard. I mean, I just list all these names. I mean, Ohtani could be MVP potentially. Trout obviously is an MVP candidate, but I could go on. I think there are so many more MVP and Cy Young candidates this year, just given on what you can do in 60 games in a third of the season. So there are more candidates this year. It's not like towards the end of the year where you can kind of decide on your finalist like you could in years past. This year, it will be so many choices. It's going to be a quick season. We are approximately 74 hours away from first pitch, as it is 5:02. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. I've done 6 preview videos. This is Berkeley Sports Talk.